Hi everyone, welcome back to Sports Kathi. Today I have Karan and Rohit with me to talk about yet another series against England, which we have won. We have won the ODI series 2-1, and it did go down to the wire, at least in the last match, and it was very exciting. And one thing we have to see again in the ODI series is that this is the top two ranked teams in the world. And India versus England was some sort of a dress rehearsal, which you can say after 2 years down the line, we have the 2023 World Cup. And this is about planning the team. There were a few members missing in the Indian team in terms of course, Bumrah was missing. You can see Jadeja was missing as well. And if you look at England, they also had Joe Root missing. They had Jofra Archer missing, as well as Chris Wokes. These are very important players that were missing on both camps. But for other players, it was a matter of audition, who should be selected and who should not be selected come 2 years down the line. So let's start with, just like last time, we had a format of rating players who played in the team. So let's start with Shikhar Dhawan, who is an opener who is quite doubtful. Should he be there 2 years down the line? Is he the right person to stick to? What do you think, Rohit?
Yes, Vaishakh, thanks for the intro. So yes, as Vaishakh mentioned, we are going to go with the same format of player ratings. So first player, Vaishakh clearly mentioned, this is like maybe a very early start on what the teams can be for the 2023 World Cup. And one of the hot spots, which actually a lot of debate is going on, is opening position. Everyone knows Rohit Sharma is in hot streak form in ODIs, scored 5 centuries in the last World Cup, and has been consistently good. So his position is in many ways warranted. But who will partner him is always a big question. And we have the youngsters coming in, and we have Shubman Gill coming in, we have Prithvi Shaw putting his hand up, and we also had Mayank Agarwal playing recently, and we all know that KL Rahul can open if required. So we have a lot of options for the opening spot. But as Kohli mentioned in the beginning of the series, it's actually Shikhar Dhawan's to lose. So, in a way, Shikhar Dhawan is under pressure for his spot. And, given that this is the only format in which he actually has a chance in the Indian team, it really is, for him, a career-defining in a matches. For every innings he's going to play needs to be in a way that he needs to keep performing. So he's under the pump. Now, being in that pressure situation, when he came into the tournament, I really felt, he will really need to put his hand up. And for me, personally, his first innings, in this series was actually a very, very well-paced one. The only thing that actually lagged in that is that he couldn't carry on, because if you had followed that innings, you can see that he started off slowly. He took his time because, he was not in the best of forms, coming into this, even during the Vijay Hazare or even during the T20 when he got the chance. So he had his doubts, but then, he actually came in and he took his time. He started off slowly, but he was actually picking up pace because, India as a team started off slowly. Maybe it's a strategic option to go slow, but Shikhar Dhawan took it slowly. But towards the, say, 20 over mark, when he and Kohli started, having a good partnership flowing, you could see he was the one who was accelerating. And he was actually accelerating well enough and was moving forward with a good momentum. But then, unfortunately, he lost his wicket and he couldn't complete his 100. He got dismissed for 90 odd, which is kind of unfortunate for him. So for me, he was in a good touch. The second innings, he tried to follow a similar template, but did not get going, and he got dismissed early for a very good swinger from Topley, if I'm right. So but so for me, he was, he started off well, and he was actually trying to play, the kind of innings where he plays through the innings, and once you click, once you didn't click. But now that kind of put him in a precarious position again, because one failure and people again started doubting. And that is where I felt his third innings was like for me, a confidence booster. He came in the third innings with a completely different point of view. He came in and started attacking from the go. And that is actually very, very good from his point of view and from India's point of view, because we as a team did not score enough runs in power play. And maybe it's the management telling him that we need to maybe up the ante in the beginning itself. And he did that really well. And, he was playing really well. What he was scoring, he scored 60 odd runs in 50 odd balls, 100 over strike rate. So for me, he did extremely well in the third innings. Again, the only drawback was that he was not able to carry on the innings. He got out again, you can say in some way soft dismissal. He did not read a ball of googly from Adil Rashid. So maybe, something which he can work on is that, he once he gets that momentum, he needs to carry on and make it big. So for me, for this performance of Shikhar Dhawan, I would say it doesn't. I would say an average is for me is 6, and for me it is an above average performance. I would give a 7 out of 10. The drawbacks for me is that he did not carry on and make a big score when he actually had the thing going on his way. So that's one drawback for him. And second one was the second innings he missed out. So for me, it's a good series for him, and I gave him a 7 out of 10. So that's Shikhar Dhawan for me. So let's move on to, and let's talk about a player who we call, as in the internet at least, as Shardulkar, or Shardul Thakur from Maharashtra. And Vaishakh, what is your pick for Shardul Thakur? What is your rating for Shardul Thakur?
Let me start by saying that yes, I hail from Mumbai, but this is not a biased opinion at all. But Shardul Thakur looks fit enough for the what India is planning. Now, what I say is that the India-England series has been a fight between two different ways of playing, and India is holding an extreme at one end, and England is holding an extreme at the other end. The two philosophies is England's batting is show the intent from the beginning and bat deep, so that even if one wicket falls, the next batsman comes, you start hitting. While India, the philosophy is you build your innings, and after 35, or 40, you have not lost any wickets, you go for that last minute explosion in the end and get to whatever the score line is. And both the teams, I've been rethinking what philosophy they should move forward with. And Shardul Thakur is one person when, if you have to move a bit more towards, showing the intent, as you said, Shikhar Dhawan, if he shows the intent and starts building from the beginning, you need to bat deep. And Shardul Thakur is one of the person you might need as a fast bowler if you have to bat deep. And the important question is he reliable as a fast bowler? The thing is, he's not consistent. So he did not pick wickets in the second match, but he did pick very crucial wickets in the first match and the last match. And those wickets were very important. So we could, apply some pressure on the English batting, and we were getting into the match. But both those spells by Shardul Thakur in those mid overs where he picked the middle order batsmen of England, that was very important for us to, in the end, those wickets were the reason why we won both these matches, in the first and the last one. So since Shardul Thakur played such an important role, it looks fit that Shardul Thakur should be in the plan. But again, the question is, if Bumrah, Mohammad Shami and Bhuvneshwar Kumar are fit, whom should we drop to include Shardul Thakur? And should we have 4 fast bowlers in India, which does not look good enough if we have Hardik Pandya as well? So one of them have to be dropped is the only drawback. But if you have to go for a plan to bat deep, yes, we need Shardul Thakur. And I would rather give him something like a 7.5 for his performances. 7 wickets in this series. Really, really impressive from Shardul Thakur. Let's move on to another player whom we need in the middle order to go with that explosive batting, who came back in the second ODI into the series. Rishabh Pant, what do you think about him, Karan?
Thanks for that, Vaishakh. Before I talk about Rishabh Pant and what he's done in this series, the one thing which has been very common over the last 4-5 months for Indian cricket is that one name has been constant irrespective of the format, and that is been Rishabh Pant. What he did in Australia, and then he's just been doing some amazing things. And I think within the next year, he will be India's keeper in all 3 formats. He was dropped in the first game. I was surprised that why would you not play him? But then he came back in the second game because Shreyas Iyer got injured. Coming back to what he did, Rishabh Pant played 2 games and clearly he made a difference. In the 2 games he played, he scored 155 runs with an average of 77.5 and the strike rate of 152. Which is the highest in the series. His scores were 77 and 78. The one thing I liked about both his innings was that he came at different points in both the innings. In the second game, I think he came to bat at number 5, and in the last game, he came to bat at number 4. The good thing was initially he took time onto the pitch. He understood what's happening over there because whenever he came, India had lost a couple of wickets. So he took time to get used to the situation and what the English bowlers were trying to do. And then he did not do something which a Rishabh Pant 3 years ago would do, who would just start swinging his bat. So he stayed there. He looked for those singles, looked for those doubles, tried to build up a partnership. And when he felt that, okay, this is the time for me to burst, he went all out and he went hitting multiple sixes and fours. That is one thing which is very impressive for me as Rishabh Pant, the batsman. He's maturing by every game he plays, and that is a huge bonus for the Indian team. And I feel that is something you want from your wicketkeeper batsman, because if Rishabh Pant can provide that stability at number 4 or at number 5, which I feel was the main reason why India lost the 2019 World Cup. In 2023, in the 2023 World Cup, we have a solid number 4, and that will be very useful for us. So I feel Rishabh Pant fits perfectly in the number 4, number 5 mold for a batsman mold, and provided he's left-handed, that also helps. The other thing I want to talk about is Rishabh Pant as the keeper. I felt that Rishabh Pant as a keeper, now that we know the Indian cricket, I mean, he's going to be the next big thing in the Indian cricket. He needs to improve his game awareness a bit, because I felt that Kuldeep Yadav as a bowler, he did very well with Dhoni behind the wicket. And I feel that Rishabh Pant, now he knows that he's the next big thing in Indian cricket. He needs to start understanding the game better and try to talk to his bowlers like Dhoni did, and that might actually help bowlers like Kuldeep Yadav improve. Because Kuldeep Yadav had a very poor series, but when Dhoni was around, he would actually pick up wickets. So I feel that is one thing Rishabh Pant, the keeper, needs to improve on. Other than that, I think he's had a phenomenal series. If I would have to rate him, I would give him a 9 on 10. But I think he's done really well, and I'm really looking forward to what he does with Delhi Capitals. So really excited with Rishabh Pant. The next player we'll be talking about is the person I just mentioned, Kuldeep Yadav. And over to you, Rohit. What do you think about Kuldeep?
Thank you, Karan. I think you did mention a very good point while you were talking about Rishabh Pant, which relates to Kuldeep Yadav. Yes, Kuldeep Yadav. When Dhoni was a keeper, he was bowling extremely well. Maybe it's that reason. I don't want to just point out that having a good keeper helps a good bowler. That also kind of undermines the bowler's ability to adapt well. But I think it's more of a reason that Kuldeep Yadav has not grown as a bowler, maybe possibly because every bowler when they come into stage, especially what do you call unorthodox bowlers like who Kuldeep Yadav is like a left-arm Chinaman. So unorthodox bowler as Kuldeep Yadav, when he comes in the scene, the batsman will take some time to adapt. And that's exactly what happened. We saw that since 2017 when Kuldeep Yadav and Chahal came in, the batsmen were initially struggling against both of them, and they had a wonderful period. But then what happened is that slowly with all the video analysis and everything that's available in the current era, the batsmen and teams actually started picking him. And we saw that in the 19 World Cup, we couldn't play both of them together because, they were leaking runs, and we also because of their lack of ability with the bat. So, we had to slightly change a plan there. Now, since then and since, say somewhere around 2018, 2019, we also saw Kuldeep Yadav drastic dip in form in T20s. Again, he was exceptional form bowler in T20s, but, and one of the key things of having Kuldeep Yadav in the team is to pick wickets. And even that kind of that went down a bit. We knew that he will leak runs given that, he's a very attacking bowler, but, lack of wickets kind of showed, and he was dropped from the IPL team, KKR. So, which is kind of shows that, yes, it's not just an Indian team. Now, this ODI series, as for many other players, as I mentioned, Shikhar Dhawan, was a very good series, very good opportunity for Kuldeep Yadav to perform in and show that he's still a very good option for India going into 23 World Cup. And for me, he did not utilize that opportunity the way he would want it to go. He had a very, very poor series. When I say very poor, it is still underrated. He had extremely poor series. In 2 matches he played, he conceded 152 runs at 8 runs per over and did not pick a single wicket. Now, for me, that is very, very poor performance. People are saying that he's lacking confidence. People are saying that he has not played for a long time and was in a bubble for some time. That might have affected his ability. Maybe I give him all benefit of doubts for that being in the bubble for a long time, lack of match practice, and maybe as Karan mentioned, maybe a good guide from the keeper to help him. But no matter what, a bowler who has played 4-5 years of international cricket should be able to evolve. And if you don't evolve, you just go off because there's competition there for spots. And for me, Kuldeep Yadav in the series was extremely poor, and for me that because of that reason he gets 1 out of 10 for this series. And for me, if he does not evolve, if he does not grow, then his future in Indian team itself looks very bleak. So that's pretty much for me about Kuldeep Yadav. Anyway, that's about Indian players. So coming to the English players, let's start off with the man of the series of the tournament, Jonny Bairstow. So I think Karan, off to you for Jonny Bairstow.
I mean, talking about Jonny Bairstow, I think he had a phenomenal series. Even though Kohli felt that Bhuvneshwar Kumar could have won man of the series, I would have still given it to Jonny Bairstow because he batted really well. So Jonny Bairstow played 3 games this series. He scored 219 runs with an average of 73 and a strike rate of 120. Now, I genuinely felt that the first game should have been won by England because the start provided by Bairstow and Jason Roy was phenomenal. They just thrashed India in that first match when they were chasing the target of 317. Uh, Before I talk about Bairstow, there's one thing I want to talk about Bairstow and Jason Roy. Bairstow and Jason Roy have played about 44, have opened for England about 44 times, and they've scored about 2,663 runs with an average of 60. And I was reading a stat somewhere that whenever they score more than 50 runs, England doesn't lose those many games. So I feel that the opening pair is, I feel, the USP of the English team. I mean, definitely they bat deep with, you had Stokes at 3, Morgan, Buttler, Malan. They had so many options, but the USP of the English batting team, in my opinion, which separates them from the other teams in the world right now, is their opening pair. Because Bairstow and Jason Roy are at another level, and Bairstow showed that. I mean, he had a 50, he had 100, and 219 runs is not a joke. So I felt that Bairstow did everything that was asked from him. Keeping in mind where he was coming from, he had a disastrous test series where his scores were zeros and ones. He had an average T20 series as well. But I think ODI is the format where Bairstow actually shines. And that we've been seeing that since the 2019 World Cup. Bairstow, whenever he comes, he's just confident about himself. And I feel that that will be useful for Sunrisers Hyderabad in the IPL as well, considering the form he's in. And from that aspect, I think I'll give Bairstow a 9 on 10. A deserving man of the series, had a phenomenal series. And I feel, and I hope he continues to play well. The next English player we will be discussing is Ben Stokes.
Yes, thanks, Karan. So coming to Ben Stokes, for me, he's one of the best players in the world right now in all formats. And in coming to ODIs, this position, what he was trying here, he came to bat at number 3. This is kind of like surprising for me. It is understandable in some ways because Joe Root, who is, I think, their number 3 in ODIs, or should be given, they require someone to stabilize their innings. In his absence, Ben Stokes to go and bat in at 3, a new position, I felt it was kind of like a task which is new for him, but he took it like that, just like that. The first innings he did fail. He came in and the score was extremely good for them and chasing a 300 plus score. He had a very scratchy start and he scored out very cheaply. But then in the second match, he showed what he's capable of. The way he destroyed Indian bowling in the second match, that is one of the cleanest hittings I've seen in some time. I've seen Rishabh Pant hit, I've seen Hardik Pandya hit, but the way Ben Stokes was hitting Kunal Pandya and Kuldeep Yadav was just in a different level. So for me, the impact that Ben Stokes have on England is extremely high. And for him to come in at number 3 and then play a similar role and make them do what they did, and do what he did in the series is extremely good for him. But I don't see him as a future number 3 for England. I feel Root will come back. He will take up the number 4 position. So for me, he's a number 4 player, and which is extremely good to have as a number 4 player. Given what the batting order, rest of the batting lineup for England is. Now, Ben Stokes, yes, he failed in 2 out of 3 innings as a batsman, but for me, he's an all-round player, and that's why I say one of the best players in the world. Not just because what he offers with the bat, but also what he gives to the ball. He bowled 20 overs in the 3 matches, took 4 wickets, bowled an economy of only 6 per over, which is incredible when the scores are always 300 plus consistently. So, and he picked up 4 wickets again, which is pretty good given that not many wickets fell in the entire series. So, for me as a player, he contributes everywhere. He's there everywhere. The captain, when he wants a wicket, just look at Ben Stokes. So easy. When he wants some run, there he's scoring runs. And apart from that, he takes wonderful catches also. He did not take any stunners in this ODI, but we know what a good fielder he is. So for me, as a series goes on for this particular series, I give him a 7.5 out of 10. And that's my rating for Ben Stokes. But yes, we know what he's capable of, and his rating is based on what he's actually capable of. So that's my rating for Ben Stokes. Let's move on. The next player is Jos Buttler, and Karan, off to you.
Butler, when I saw the T20 series in the form he was in, I was like, oh man, this guy is going to be a big trouble for India. And then the ODI series started. The first game he failed. I'm like, okay, he'll be back in the second. Second game he failed. I'm like, okay, now with the decider, he'll probably come up. And Butler never came up. He did become the stand-in captain in the second and the third game because Owen Morgan was injured. But Butler had I wouldn't even say a below average innings, below average series. He had a pathetic series. He played all three games and he scored about 17 runs in three games. And that is something you don't expect out of Jos Buttler, considering he was England's highest run getter in the T20 series and he was looking in good form. I don't know. Maybe the captaincy had a toll on his batting. I feel that was the reason because this was a series where batsmen outperformed all the bowlers. Everyone was hitting huge sixes. Everyone was scoring big runs, and I felt that this was the series where Butler could also chip in and score a lot more runs. His wicket keeping was fine. He had about four dismissals throughout the series, but from a batting perspective, just scoring 17 runs, I feel was pathetic. And I feel his captaincy also was fine in the second and the third game. Nothing extraordinary, I feel, because the English team itself has so many talented players. You don't need to captain them much. The bowling changes I felt were okay, but just as a batsman, he was just so poor. Like there was nothing to review. He looked out of form. He got LBW twice in the series, not knowing what to do. He just looked confused. So I feel that Butler comes back. I hope he does well for Rajasthan Royals. But other than that, he just had a poor series. And if we had a Kuldeep Yadav from an Indian perspective, the English team had a Butler, and he gets a 1 on 10. So poor series, and that's it from my end. Next player we'll be talking about is Moeen Ali. And over to Vaishakh. I think Vaishakh has some good insights about Moeen Ali.
Thank you, Karan. So I think we conclude with Moeen Ali, the fourth player. And the important part about Moeen Ali is that he's the spinner that England needs to play in Indian conditions, because in 2023 the World Cup will be in India and England would need to prepare for that. If we just assess Moeen Ali as an all-rounder, he might not get into the English side because the plethora of players they have, especially as you said, Ben Stokes, Chris Wokes when he's back, another big all-rounder. So it's pretty hard for Moeen Ali. But the good thing about Moeen Ali is that he has played well in Indian conditions with the spin. In these three matches that he played, he was very economic as well, except for one match. You see his figures in the second match: 10 overs, none for 47. That is really good figures. The last match, 7 overs, 1 for 39. Again, good figures, and the wicket of Virat Kohli, which is important. And when I say Virat Kohli, the important part is he has picked the wicket of Virat Kohli 3 times in ODI, and he has picked it 5 times in Test cricket. So against India, Moeen Ali is a very key player if you need to take the Virat Kohli wicket. And taking the wicket of Virat Kohli 5 times in Test matches itself is a big achievement for a bowler, and that for a Moeen Ali as an all-rounder to do that. And 3 times even in ODI cricket is also good for a bowler in the limited number of matches that he has played. Now, if you look at Moeen Ali as a batsman, well, he has not performed that good enough. He has 3 ODI hundreds, and he's supposed to be a good batsman. And lower down the order, he's someone supposed to be reliable. And it is a bit disappointing the way he threw his wicket away, especially in that last match, where you expected him, to just settle down with Sam Curran and be that experienced player to play around with Sam Curran, but he didn't do that in the last match. Thankfully for an Indian fan, Moeen Ali threw his wicket away. So that is one bad point with Moeen Ali, but 3 matches is still 2 less. And he has shown that he has not lost his spinning abilities, and he should be a good pick for England come the World Cup in 2023. Moeen Ali should be that spinning all-rounder that England should be relying on. So I would rather give him a 6. The negative points are slightly because of his batting, but otherwise, he's a fantastic player and has shown a really good performance in this tournament. Let's conclude here. I think this has been too long. So if you have any comments that you want to say, any players that you actually wished we could have covered, or you wanted to talk about how well he played, please do that in the comment box. We would like to hear from you about how you saw the series and how you enjoyed the series as well. And we conclude here. Until next time, stay safe. Goodbye.